As a prank, some teenagers pushed a young girl into a pen with an agitated stallion. They eagerly anticipated the horse's reaction, but were stunned by the unfolding events. On a lovely morning, Reagan was tending to the stables at a horse farm. Despite the job being regarded as messy by many, she found joy in caring for the horses and spending time among them. Her mornings at the horse farm were a special time for her, and yet when she heard the familiar sound of her approaching footsteps, all her happiness turned to frustration. The boys were coming, and she anticipated their usual taunts. Sure enough, as the boys arrived, they mocked her. They couldn't understand why Reagan preferred the company of horses over theirs. She felt the weight of their laughter. Usually she would ignore them, but this time she had reached a breaking point. Anger welled up within her, fueled by the injustice of their behavior. Despite being a skilled rider and horseman, the teenager endured constant teasing, simply because she was a girl. This morning, the frustration reached its peak as the boys continued their mockery. She decided she had had enough. Confronting them head-on, she boldly asserted her skills and accused them of cowardice. They only bothered her because they were 5 against 1, and because Mr. Morgan wasn't around to reprimand them like the children they were. None of them would be bold enough to confront her one-on-one or to say something mean to her in front of the stable owner. Her words hung in the air momentarily, silencing the boys. They were taken aback by her sudden assertiveness and secretly embarrassed at the hidden truth behind her statement. For a brief moment, the stables echoed with an unusual quietness as the boys processed her words. Then they looked at each other, shared a nod, and left, retreating into the main room. From any other point of view, this might have looked like a victory. However, Reagan knew this piece would be short-lived. She could sense a storm of retaliation brewing within them. In the hours that followed, an uneasy tension lingered in the stables. The boys, while momentarily subdued, plotted their response. Reagan, too, braced herself for what was to come. True to her expectations, the retaliation came that very evening. As she spent quiet moments with a gentle horse in its enclosure, the boys hatched a plan to trick her. Driven by mischief, they came up with a sneaky plan to trick Reagan into entering the pen of one of the farm's most notorious horses. They had noticed her routine of spending time with the horses in their paddocks and were hell-bent on making her regret it. So they carefully watched, waiting for the right moment to execute their plan. When Reagan was engrossed with the calm horse, the boys saw their chance. They whispered among themselves, plotting to deceive her into entering the notorious horse's pen. They knew they had to act quickly before she noticed their intentions. One of the boys approached Reagan, pretending to be worried about one of the horses. He made up a story about the horse needing urgent attention, saying that it was not eating and seemed sick. He sounded convincing, hoping to catch Reagan off guard. The boy played up the urgency, making it seem like her immediate help was crucial. Blindly trusting his words, she followed him toward the pen where the horse was kept, unaware of the trap that awaited her. They intentionally kept Reagan in the dark about which horse needed urgent attention. If they had disclosed that it was Natalie, the notorious horse, her actions might have been different. She would have likely sought guidance from the stable owner or called the vet for assistance, knowing that the horse required special handling due to his wild instincts. Unfortunately, the boys deliberately withheld this crucial information. They led Reagan towards the pen without revealing the identity of the horse in distress. As they approached the pen, the other boys hid nearby, eagerly anticipating the outcome of their plan. The boy leading Reagan continued with the act, pretending there was a real emergency that needed her attention. The notorious horse, sensing someone new entering its space, grew curious. Thinking she was helping, she entered the pen, unaware of the prank the boys had played on her. She wanted to make sure the horse was okay, just like she always did with the other horses. And in her eagerness to help, she didn't hear the paddock lot getting shut. Then the boys couldn't contain their laughter any longer. They revealed their prank, laughing loudly as she realized she had been tricked. The notorious horse, feeling the change in the atmosphere, became wary. With the truth out in the open, the boys retreated, leaving her alone with the massive horse. As she turned, she came face to face with Natalie, who had started approaching her. Natalie was a magnificent white stallion who stood out among the herd. His beauty was captivating, drawing the attention of everyone who laid eyes on him. His spotless white coat and majestic presence made him the farm's prized possession. However, there was more to Natalie than met the eye. Though stunning, he had a reputation for being a bit mischievous. Newcomers often fell for his outward charm, only to discover the spirited personality beneath. Natalie was a notoriously wild horse. Despite all efforts to tame him, there were only very few people who could go close to him. Mr. Morgan was the only one whom Natalie truly obeyed. Mr. Morgan had found him wandering in the wild as a colt, struggling with hunger. Moved by compassion, the stable owner saw beyond the wild exterior and recognized the horse needing rescue. Determined to save the colt from his plight, Mr. Morgan approached the task with care and understanding. Starvation had left Natalie wary and resistant, making gaining his trust a slow and patient journey. He spent weeks observing the young horse from a distance, allowing him to become accustomed to his presence. Gradually, a bond formed between the farm owner and the ailing horse. With his gentle guidance and unwavering patience, he won Natalie's trust. With great effort, Mr. Morgan led the horse back to the horse farm, where he worked tirelessly to rehabilitate the colt. The other farmhands, initially cautious of the newly arrived stallion, soon witnessed the transformative power of care and compassion. Soon, Natalie began to regain his strength and vitality. However, Natalie was as mischievous and hard-headed as any horse could be, and was known for his unpredictable nature and wild instincts. But despite his wild exterior, Reagan had always felt an inexplicable connection with him. She believed that behind his spirited defiance was a misunderstood soul. Her curiosity led her to study Natalie from afar, watching how he interacted with others and responded to the world around him. The teenager felt that understanding the horse's unique language was the key to unlocking the untamed beauty within. When she had first joined them at the stable, she had heard tales about the stallion's notoriousness. After spending time at the farm, her fascination with the beautiful stallion only grew. She spent hours quietly observing him, noting his movements and the expressions in his eyes. Through patience and careful observation, she understood the silent communication between Natalie and the world. Despite her growing understanding, she wasn't ready to approach the horse directly. His reputation as a wild force left her cautious, and she did not plan to approach the horse anytime soon. She recognized the time it would take to build trust and create a bond strong enough to be near him without sparking his spirited resistance. Spending time with Natalie felt like a far-off dream, one that required patience and a gradual approach. Reagan's determination, however, remained steadfast. She believed in the power of patience and understanding, knowing that true connections took time and respect. While she worked in the stables, she kept a watchful eye on Natalie, hoping for the day when their paths would cross in a moment of mutual understanding. And if she were to be honest, she liked the job. When Mr. Morgan, the farm owner, had kindly allowed her to join the stable boys after she expressed her desire to volunteer, her heart swelled with gratitude. The horse farm held a unique charm for the 16-year-old girl. Despite the dirt and hard work, she cherished every moment spent with the horses. Their presence brought her comfort and happiness. However, not everything at the farm was as delightful as the horses. The stable kids. A group Reagan was meant to join proved to be a challenge. Instead of being friendly, the boys always teased and excluded her from their activities. To them, she was an oddity because she didn't share the interests of typical girls. Instead of engaging in conventional activities, she found solace in the stables, away from the giggles and games of her peers. Her uniqueness set her apart. But the stable boys couldn't understand her preference for the company of horses over that of other girls. Their teasing stung, yet Reagan stood strong in her conviction. She knew she was different, and in that difference was a bond she shared with the understanding horses. Each morning, she faced the taunts with resilience. She focused on her love for the horses, using it as a shield against the hurtful words. The stable boy's lack of understanding only fueled her determination to prove that her connection with the horses was genuine and meaningful. Reagan developed a routine that became her sanctuary as she continued her daily tasks in the stables. The rhythmic sounds of sweeping, the scent of hay, and the warmth of the horses created an atmosphere where she felt truly herself. In these moments, the judgment and teasing from the stable boys melted away. Right now, she felt more scared than she'd ever been on the farm. She had looked forward to getting close to the horse, but not like this. Panic gripped her as the infamous Stallion approached her. She knew that there was no way she could outrun him. With her heart pounding in fear, gripping her tightly, she scanned her surroundings, desperately seeking a way to escape the impending danger. As she racked her brain for a solution, a memory from the past flashed through her mind. It was an incident involving one of the stable boys, Andrew, who foolishly tried teasing Natalie by sneaking up on him from behind. Reagan vividly remembered the consequences of Andrew's actions. The Stallion, with his wild instincts and strong defense mechanisms, reacted instinctively to the perceived threat and delivered a powerful kick that left Andrew hospitalized for months. Andrew had been naive. Horses, by nature, are prey animals with acute senses and strong flight responses. Their survival instincts have been finely tuned to detect threats from all directions, particularly from behind, where they have limited visibility. Approaching a horse from behind can trigger a fear response, causing it to react defensively to what it perceives as a potential predator or threat. When this happens, its immediate reaction is often to kick out as a means of self-defense for horses like Natalie, who may have experienced trauma or faced threats in the past. The instinct to defend themselves is even heightened. Their reactions can be swift and powerful, posing significant danger to anyone who approaches them without caution or respect for their instincts. In Andrew's case, his attempt to sneak up on the Stallion was met with disastrous consequences. Startled by the sudden intrusion into its personal space, Natalie had reacted with a forceful kick that had left the boy severely injured. Reagan felt a shiver down her spine as she remembered what happened to Andrew when he teased Natalie. The boys who tossed her into the pen stood in a corner, waiting eagerly to see what would unfold. Fear gripped her heart, wondering if she would face the same fate. The idea of calling for help crossed her mind, but she remembered that Mr. Morgan, the farm owner who could assist her, was away visiting his daughter. That left her all alone, and the boys, aware of their mischief, didn't care about the warning the stable owner gave them about teasing her. In fact, Mr. Morgan's absence seemed to embolden them. The frightened teenage girl considered climbing over the pen, but its height seemed impossible to conquer. The boys, sensing her desperation, exchanged sneaky glances, enjoying the feeling of triumph from their heartless prank. Reagan understood the gravity of the situation and knew that any sudden movements or attempts to flee could trigger a defensive response from the Stallion. Despite their size and strength, horses are sensitive animals that respond to the energy and body language of those around them. Instead, she remained calm, drawing on her knowledge of horse behavior to navigate the delicate encounter. As Natalie closed the distance, Reagan took a deep breath, recalling the lesson she had learned. Instead of panicking, she adopted a calm and non-threatening posture. Instead of giving in to fear, she focused on the approaching horse and did something that shocked all the boys who were watching. She took a step towards Natalie. As she cautiously approached the stallion, the boys shouted and screeched to whip the horse up. Yet she stood strong, relying on the same determination that guided her through the challenges in the stables. Curious and perhaps recognizing Reagan's familiar presence, Natalie also approached with curious steps. His ears flicked forward, indicating a curious interest rather than aggression. Now that the horse was close, she stood still, avoiding sudden movements or direct eye contact, signaling to Natalie that she meant no harm. As the horse stood in front of her, the girl sensed an opportunity to connect with him. She extended her hand and gently stroked his head while speaking softly to him. To her surprise, Natalie responded with friendliness, his demeanor softening in her presence. The boys were shocked as the horse allowed Reagan to approach. The laughter they anticipated turned into disbelief as a surprising bond unfolded. Then, defying expectations, the stallion did something remarkable. He bent down, inviting Reagan to mount him. Onlookers gasped as she accepted the invitation with a mix of apprehension and excitement. With care, she climbed onto Natalie's back, feeling the powerful muscles beneath her. Riding together, Reagan felt the rush of exhilaration. The wind carried away expectations and doubts, and Reagan and Natalie shared a bond of trust and understanding, surpassing fear and uncertainty. As they returned from the ride, Reagan and Natalie were met with newfound respect. The boys who once mocked her now looked on with awe, recognizing the depths of Reagan's bond with the horses. Unknown to the pranksters, Reagan and the stallion had met before the prank. One day, as she stood near Natalie's pen, silently observing him, something unexpected happened. The wild stallion, who was usually resistant to the presence of others, approached her with cautious curiosity. Sensing the delicate moment, she remained still, allowing Natalie to initiate the interaction. The farm was silent, and no one witnessed what happened in that moment. Reagan realized that her silent dedication had not gone unnoticed. Natalie seemed to recognize the sincerity in her approach. When the horse approached her, she hoped he would recognize her and took the risk of initiating an interaction this time. After the ride, she approached the stable boys with a courage she didn't know she possessed and shared her love for the horses. She explained how the stables were her haven, a place where she found peace and a connection that words couldn't describe, and she would not have that peace disturbed by them anymore. Surprisingly, the boys listened. From that day on, Reagan's presence at the farm carried authority and respect. As weeks passed, the stable boys began to see her in a new light. They observed her dedication and passion for the horses, realizing that her differences weren't a weakness, but a strength. Slowly, the teasing transformed into acceptance, and Reagan found herself forming unexpected friendships. In the aftermath of the prank, Reagan's relationship with Natalie took an unexpected turn. Despite his mischievous side, she found a companion in the spirited stallion who seemed to sense her genuine love for the horses. She spent more time with the stallion, learning to easily navigate his playful nature. As Reagan and Natalie developed a unique bond, the boys witnessed a transformation in their perception of her. The prank that was intended to embarrass her inadvertently showcased her ability to handle challenges with a positive spirit. The boys, perhaps begrudgingly, began to acknowledge her resilience and determination. When Mr. Morgan returned, he praised Reagan for her bravery. The incident prompted a renewed commitment to fostering a culture of respect at the farm. The boys, influenced by the transformative power of compassion, embraced a change of heart. But first, they were forced to spend the following 3 months shoveling horse dung. Despite the fact that Reagan had emerged victorious from her encounter with Natalie, Mr. Morgan didn't take the prank lightly this time. The boys, however, didn't retaliate. Their friendship with Reagan was strong now, and they would never harm her again. What an incredible story! If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, Don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.